Today I will be talking about the physical and logical access control convergence project that we funded. So again, my name is Karyn Higa Smith. I'm a program manager under the DHS Science and Technology Directorate. It's basically the research arm for the department, and I'm specifically under the HSARPA pillar. Like, you know, most of you know DARPA, but this is Homeland Security Advanced Research Projects Agency. And so I'm managing under the Cybersecurity Division is the Identity and Access Management projects. So that was my intro for that. So I wanted to just quickly talk about a little bit of background of the Cybersecurity Division and their mission. It started, well, it was realigned back in 2010, but we've actually been funding identity and access management since 2007. But we have, so just for the mission strategy piece, we collect requirements from our customers, and our customers range from federal, state, local, and even the private sector, mainly the critical infrastructure and key resources like electric sector, finance sector. Those are there's about 12 or maybe even more of them. So what we do is we deliver technologies to the customer. So we start with a customer and end with a customer, but we don't actually do in-house research and development. What we do is solicit based on our customers' requirements and needs. We solicit through a long range or a broad agency announcement. So we solicit the research community like yourselves. So it could be small business, large business, you know, institution, universities, and even national labs. But they come and they provide us with, you know, research proposals. And if we think it's a good fit for our customer, then we, you know, put them under contract. So we've been developing these technologies, and technologies come in the form of, or transition to the customer, come in the form of an open source code, or you know, we develop something through the contract. They develop something and it gets bought out by a larger company, or, you know, for instance, there's one small business that developed something that McAfee actually bought, and it's now available through the McAfee product. So that's just a little bit of background. So more background, we have been, we partnered just specifically with the identity management. We partnered with FEMA, and actually Chris is familiar with some of these because he's published a couple of this, but we partnered with FEMA. We bring together state and locals that are moving towards a credential interoperability for first responders. I'll get to that in a minute, but an example of what we've been funding since '07 is an identity management test bed. It's hosted at Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab. Here in this lab, we've simulated real-world environments of our customers. So, you know, there's like, you know, the internet, there's the DMZ that will connect to the test bed, and we have so you need a fire. Is that better? Sorry. You need a firewall that you know, will protect the test environment, but it's really synthetic data. It's not real environment. We just simulated real world environment. And what we have here is commercial off-the-shelf products, and we also have some open source code or products. But you know, here we have a policy decision point. We actually have Axiomatics. If you've been to their booth, also they're here, and an attribute aggregator that will connect to attribute sources of user attributes, and that we use Radiant Logic, and then we have an attribute repository that we've simulated that contains emergency responder attributes, but we put that basically on a SQL server. So some of the things that successful transitions, all of these that you see here, it's kind of an eye chart, but have been successfully and completed and transitioned over to the customer. So it's live and working. So, like I said before, we support federal, state, local, and private sector. And these are specific ones that we've actually worked with and had projects with, whether it lasted 1 year or 3 years. They've actually been transitioned over to them. But today, I'm specifically going to be talking about the purple line, because this is something we supported state and locals on a physical access control system that converges with the logical for the District of Columbia specifically. So it's all based on standards and open source middleware and standards. So just a little background for the state and local community that are moving towards a credential. So it's not a national ID. This is basically for their emergencies community. So they wanted an interoperable credential that is trusted by the government at level 4. So the one, well, it's like a PIV, CAC, and PIV-I. So PIV-I is for non-federal issuers. So that's the state and locals, and like companies like Northrop Grumman has been issuing their employees with PIV-I cards because they interface a lot with the aerospace and defense community. But here we are supporting them by providing them with innovative tools and cost-efficient, processes. So just to level set, and I'm probably, usually I speak to non-identity folks, more of cybersecurity folks, but we always level set, the authentication separated by the authorization. So the authentication is basically, and Chris went over this, but it's verifying that you have, something you know, something you are. But when you get enrolled into, for instance, at FEMA, you get employed by them, they issue you a smart card emergency responder credential. The credential has a unique identifier, a PIN, a biometric, but they also give you roles and responsibilities, and each FEMA employee is an emergency responder. So they have a card with a red stripe on it that delegates them as an emergency responder, but there's the emergency response support function. So it's there's a standard called the National Response Framework that shows up with the emergency support functions. There's about 15 of them, and it's hazmat, fire, medical, law enforcement, but they designate them with the 15 different attributes. So those attributes are bound to a unique identifier, and they're stored in this repository at FEMA. And the state and local also that are part of that community are moving towards this standardized process as well. So I just wanted to note that we S&T aren't changing any of the standards. We are just leveraging all of the authentication standards. That's basically out of scope of what we're doing. We're mostly supporting them in the authorization piece. So we've been developing some technology or protocols that allows them to exchange attributes, so in order for them to make attribute-based access control. But this authentication piece, this is all standardized. They all follow FIPS 201 for this particular group, that is, and the NIST 800 series. So what we've developed is an end-to-end process for getting attributes that are stored in a repository. So to your far left, all the way to a policy decision point, whether it's a mobile device or a field station. So one of the things that we've added is a lightweight protocol, which is also standard, based on over rest, to exchange attributes between a local workstation to a mobile handheld device. So the mobile handheld device would, this scenario is in a comms in, and they would take this mobile device, and the incident commander at a large-scale incident would control at the access point. So this is physical access control now, but they would take this device, and each responder that has a PIV-I, or CAC card, they would come and respond by going through the short line, is what FEMA calls it. The long line would be the manual process that we do today, which is making phone calls. Everyone heard about the case during Hurricane Sandy, where there was a whole line of bucket trucks waiting to come in and restore power. But they wouldn't let them in because they didn't trust who they were, so there's no identity, and they needed to wait to make phone calls. They lost millions of these companies, electric companies, lost millions of dollars. CEOs fired many of the CTO, CIOs because of this fiasco. So these electric companies, were beginning to work with them in the Northeast region to do a pilot scenario where they would have a trusted credential and have attributes stored in their home agency. So so one of the things I have to say before I show this video is this isn't successful in an emergency that happens once a year, once every 3 years, once every whatever decade. It is only successful if they use it on a daily basis, because they're not going to remember their PIN number for something that they use once a year that they put away in their drawer. So these state and locals that we're working with, they want to use this on a daily basis, for logging into their computers, for accessing their facilities. So they don't want to just use this for an emergency case. So I'm going to try to show this quick video. Hopefully somebody's tracking my time too. Find a place that
the team is leveraging already existing smart card technology standards to accomplish this. We did a pilot authorization information about person finding access to cyber services and physical location for all authorized ports to have security access. The card presented a reader and first in the authentication and then authorization process are based on information about all parties. We have emergency personality on services by using technology specific skill package, store automation, and technology to respond to that nearby position. Using outdoor languages to improve quality response, as well as language all services. blend seamlessly in managed by resource owners, personality, brand access, secure location, and system as specified by policies and operative awareness where, when, and to what duration person interacts with the facility will be provided in real time. Federal, state, local, public, and private sectors must collaborate to identify identity management challenges.
All right, so yeah, we've developed that video because of the large interest in the community. We've been going around and pilot or showing the proof of concept pilot to not only FICAM, the ICAM subcommittee within the federal CIO, but also other communities that are interested, especially the commercial sector. Okay, so like I said, this is our execution model. It started because we went to visit a fusion center, and the fusion center director came, and led us through and gave us a tour. And he had one credential, and this is a great. Chris set this up already, but we went into a fusion center. He did a flash pass, and they let him in and let us through by signing in. Then to get to the elevator, he had to use a biometric to access the elevator and go to his floor. And then he used a third credential just to get, and this was also set up by Andre, but a third domain, a room in order for him to access his floor. And then, of course, the fourth credential to access his computer system. So all of these are all segregated, they're all siloed, and what we decided to do is develop the technology and demonstrate it in a lab environment. And DC government, the District of Columbia, actually said that they raised their hand and said, I have a perfect, place to put this in, an environment to put this in. So we worked very closely from the very beginning, the CIO, CTO, and with the CSO. So those are the security guys, the physical security guys. But without all of them in a room in discussing this and educating each other, it wouldn't be possible. So there's a lot of politics. Technology is one thing, but politics and process is the big elephant in the room. So we developed the technology. It needed to have some sort of impact, of course, and then transition back to the customer. And the key piece that what we developed of how we integrated the logical access control system with the physical access control system was by using standards. So what we leveraged is the XACML standard. You've heard it probably from Axiomatic's presentation, but extensible access control markup language. It's an open standard for, access control policy language. And right now, we may or may not use it, but in this case, in scenario, just for this purpose, we log in to a SharePoint or, whatever web portal you want to choose one. So you go through this, basic layout. This is very basic, but a policy enforcement point, and the decision point is the logic that the logic engine that decides, if you have this, then you get access. If you have this attribute, then you get access. If you don't, then you don't get access. So in the enforcement point, it's basically the thing that lets you access. So the XACML piece is right here in between the physical reader and control system and connecting to the same environment that the logical system goes through. So there's a logical access control environment or infrastructure that's implemented at DC government for their employees to access their resources, cyber resources. But now they have, of course, a separate environment, a siloed environment that those physical access control systems can also leverage all the great things that's happening on the logical side. Because you know, the physical access control environments and technology isn't leveraging a lot of the standards, but I'll get to that in a minute. But so basically, what I wanted to circle here is that we are using the XACML standard. So this is the demo, so Queralt system, they were funded by us back in 2009, but they developed the middleware piece that translates what the physical reader is sending us and translating it to XACML. So there's it's a very simple middleware, but it's available for anyone to play with. But they developed this door that you see here. It's about 6 inches tall, with a reader and a wireless communication that can, you know, communicate to the PDP. And, you know, the door unlocks. It even talks to you. But, I mean, these guys like to play. But, and then we also worked with a commercial vendor, you know, in this case it was Bridgepoint that also, what they did is, send us their proprietary, data to us so that we can translate it to XACML to send it to in the standard way to the policy decision point. So this is, basically the angle bracket of what we've developed, but, so this door, would send it to a, controller, which would do the translation of XACML over to the policy decision point. 2 minutes, okay. And the decision point, if it required attributes, it would do it through what we developed that I think I talked about it, but the backend attribute exchange profile, it's a profile around the SAML 2.0 standard. But, it would send it to the backend attribute exchange service and get attributes that are not stored locally within DC government. It would be through FEMA or other states that are coming to visit DC government. So it would send it back a yes or no to the door. This cloud environment that you see here, another thing that Queralt had developed is a way to access physical attributes, not just cyber attributes. So that's the Internet of Things portion of this talk, but it's basically, you know, if your phone is nearby, the PDP will say, okay, you know, your phone has to be close to you in order to open the door. So that includes like physical attributes. So this is a picture of what we've implemented. It was a kiosk that, you know, you put your card in, check your PIN and biometric. We've deployed it at DC government. So now if you have a CAC PIV, they trust you at level 4 for the authentication piece. And then if you are authorized to access their facility, you go through the employee turnstile instead of going through the metal detector for visitors. So Mark actually wanted me to give you some takeaways, but I think I already talked it through my presentation where we have to communicate, you know, and with all the many different groups that Chris mentioned, the CIO and CSO that normally operate independently. They have different skill sets, but here, and we're not trying to take control of the physical security. We're just trying to help them better manage who gets access to the facilities. And this is the Internet of Things that I wanted to make sure that I talked about, because this is the future for physical access control as we, you know, want to help deploy with these particular state and local state. They are actually interested in connecting the PDP with, you know, the CCTV, using biometrics, and they like the idea of, you know, this physical attribute scenario where your phone has to be close by. And there's actually a demo. I have it on these slides will be available to you, but there's a YouTube demo that shows, you know, if your phone is close by, you can unlock that door. So here's a little bit more resources on the website if you're interested. I don't know if we have any questions, but I will be around after this session. Thank you.